am making a Ross Dress for Less storefront for our dolls. Come on, guys. This is my sky background. It's a piece of poster board I picked up from Michael's that's glued onto a piece of foam board. This is a facade that I built. It was a restaurant. Let's see, will it stand? This table is super uneven. There we go. The sky is falling. And this is a pillar. The idea is that this, since this is part of a strip mall, this is like a restaurant, I don't want to have my facade bigger than this. I have Miss Florida lady here. I made this so the door is bigger than the doll, and of course the facade is going to be bigger than the door. I want to make sure that this Ross, it has to be about this size. I took a Ross Dress for Less shopping bag and cut out the logo. My kid is an artist who's graduated from this type of drawing pad paper, so I figured let me steal a sheet so I can use it for the back of my Ross sign. I measured the paper so there would be a 1/4 inch space around the entire lettering of the sign. That's about a 1/2 centimeter. Gluing down the bag was much trickier than I expected. I did portion by portion, about 1 inch or so at a time, because it was very difficult to keep the plastic bag flat without getting air bubbles. I used my smoother tool to try to press those air bubbles out. Even though I was being very careful, I still managed to glue this down rather crookedly. As you can see, this is a bit wonky, so we are going to have to fix that. I lined up and spread glue on the larger piece of paper that I just cut the sign from. But even then, trying to be careful, couldn't quite get it tight. I cut away the excess plastic material. I snipped the corners off at an angle, similar to what you would do if you were sewing a pillowcase and then turning it inside out. That way, our sign will have nice sharp corners when we glue everything down. So let's see what this Ross sign looks like up against our restaurant. Okay, not too bad. Not bad at all. It's not too wide. We're going to use this as our measurement. And because I am a lazy measurer, just to kind of cheat it, I think what I'll do is just make a sign right here and then make just a facade here. I have very limited storage space. I can't, as much as I would love to make its own separate little facade, I'm going to have to just repurpose this. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to make a sign. I'm going to make something here that will mimic the doors, and then something here that will be the pillars that will have those 2 blue bands that I always see at the Rosses around my way. I picked up this book of scrapbook paper at my local Goodwill thrift store. Busy Scrapper Solution for Boys to Men. I don't even think this is still in print. I got it for $3, so I figured, even though I didn't have a plan, this might work. So let's see. Maybe there's some type of tones in here that we could use. Maybe this one. This one's good. Sometimes I try to stay away from things that are too solid because then you can see the seams, but let's see what we can do. All right, after going through this book, I do think this plain solid one is going to be the one for at least behind this sign. So we'll use that. I'm torn about this one because it has the stripes, but maybe I could use that as some type of trim around the door. My other option is this scrapbook paper, which came in a large booklet from Michael's. It's the booklet that has brick, wooden floors, bamboo, things that are perfect for your doll diorama. When I get big collections like that, I tend to separate them out by color and by what they could possibly be. Didn't do that with this booklet. Basically, is this an option for cement, or is this an option for the ocean, etc., etc.? I think this might work as well. We'll see what kind of combination, this, and this. We'll see what we come up with. For the trim of the Ross pillars, I wanted to get a type of blue that would match this color. It's a little hard to see under my lighting, but it's like a very, very dark turquoise bluish. Nah, it's somewhere in there. So here are my selections of color match. At first, I was thinking using this color. This is actually the back of a Dollar Tree calendar. I picked these up. Especially when they go on sale. Usually, if you wait until about maybe springtime, early springtime, these calendars go on sale 50% off or more. There's certain scenes that I like this. I think this will be cool for an eventual Dolly diorama. But some of the other ones that I'm not so wild about, I'll just use as extra scrap background. I just realized that this might be good. Let's see. This right here, it's a little light. We also have this background. I thought that maybe this blue might work, but now seeing it under the light, I mean, it's okay, but I don't know if this part of the ocean is going to be enough blue to cover two pillars. Another option I was thinking about is this part of the sky, this part right here, if you can see. I mean, that might do it. But again, my concern is whether or not I have enough blue for that. I also thought what I could do is use my blue painter's tape. It's kind of dark here, but I do have quite a bit of it. And what I could do is maybe have this as the base of the pillar, and then maybe tie it in with this, so then that way it'll look like it's it'll look like an architectural element that I did on purpose, even though I just didn't have enough scrap paper. Now that I think I've figured that out, it's time to come up with a plan. Okay, I don't always do this, but I have found that when I don't have a rough idea of what I'm doing, I will not know what I'm doing at all. Alright, so I think for this, I mean, this is not to scale. I think this is going to be like this, right? That's going to be like the Ross. So here's the plan. I'm also I don't want to say lazy crafter, but look, in order to make these pillars, I found this surge protector box. I'm going to cut this in half. These are going to be my pillars. As an alternative, you could also take a few beauty soap bar boxes, glue them end to end, and then you can avoid all this hassle that you're watching me do right now. This box was super sturdy, so I had to score it several times with my X-Acto blade before I could even begin trying to cut it with my scissors. I peeled off the glossy paperboard coating to make it easier to use the Elmer School glue, or PVA glue. The rest of the glossy coating had to go as well. It makes it much easier for the scrapbook paper to stick to with the glue. Also, it's very therapeutic to take that stuff off. So I was able to take off most of that outer layer of packaging, but not all of it. It was pretty stuck on here. But it's okay because I'm going to cover it up anyway. I'm going to now make a fourth side for each one of them, and then they'll be good to go for our scrapbook paper. I glued, but also used a staple here. Help it stay glued, fingers crossed. Let's see if we can use this Barbie Heart the Ocean packaging as the fourth wall. know this is the part where everyone's like,
why don't you use a hot glue gun?
It's because I'm too lazy to put it out. This is just to temporarily hold it anyway, just so the cardboard will stay on there. We're gonna secure it. Will it do it? Yeah, this is probably where a hot glue gun would have been better. The paper that we're going to use to cover this is going to secure this. Well, so much for laziness. Because I chose not to take out that hot glue gun, I actually ended up creating more work for myself, using this masking tape to keep those pieces together while I waited for that PVA glue or Elmer's school glue to dry. The doll packaging wasn't quite long enough, so I had to improvise and add additional pieces to cover the end of the box, as well as peel off that paperboard shiny covering. For added security, I covered them with white drawing paper. So now I have both of my pillars covered. And the more I think about it, I think instead of having this be a facade covering my existing restaurant, I think it would make more sense to have this be its own separate facade that I could have next to the restaurant so I could build up on my shopping mall. I have this piece of, it's harder than cardstock. I'm going to use this as the facade entrance. I think what I'm going to have to do is put these on either side like this. I'm going to try to take this illustration thing off. I'm going to attach these on either side, and then I'm going to have my doors. It doesn't give me that much space to have the sides, but that's okay because that's not the point of it. The whole thing is to have everyone know that this is a Ross Dress for Less, and this is where my dolls are shopping. Well, that was a no-go. This paperboard is on here. It is extremely good quality. This was like a pain to try to get off. I tried to sand it with my pumice stone I have here, but yeah, this was no match for this. I'm just going to try to cover this with some of that white drawing paper. The back I covered with this old piece of calendar. That way, the white drawing paper will have something to adhere to, and if I change my mind and use the back of that board for something, at least it will be covered fully, and you won't see that glossy paperboard. I am going to attach the scrapbooking paper on here. I'm going to purposefully keep this turned upside down. I don't know if you can see. Well, yeah, you can see. You can actually read if I do it this way, ladies' clogs. I don't want that to bleed through, just in case. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's going to be covered, but I don't want it to be a distraction, so I'm going to do it this way. So at least if I take photos and you can see the bleed through, hopefully it'll just be just a weird effect to the paper versus something that you can actually read. And now, I think it's going to end up being set up like this, like right on the edge. So I think I'm going to glue the coverings of each piece together and then glue all of this onto either a larger piece of cardboard or a piece of foam board, something that's going to be strong that will hold all this together. I took a look at my plan again and realized that maybe I was copying the source picture a little too carefully. These pillars are white, but I don't want to leave them white because I think they're going to get dirty too easily, and I think they will leave a weird white space when I'm taking doll pictures. I remembered that I have this contact paper that I bought at the Dollar Tree a few years ago. Oh wow, I can see like a lot of glare in that now. It's like a little too shiny, but I'm hoping that when I get these fixed onto these pillars, they match the paper. They match the papers that I want to use. So let's cross our fingers on this one. did a couple of modifications. One, I decided to make these double doors narrower because, of course, they are for dolls. They don't have to worry about certain regulations of width. Each door is going to be around 3.5 inches. Plus, I didn't want to go through all this trouble of putting all this scrapbook paper down and you can't really even see it. I want people to appreciate my work. So I laid this down with a bit of an overlap and of course having it hang over to the back. The paper was not long enough to cover the top, but that's okay. I used bits and pieces to match that up. Now, for these double doors, I want there to be a bit of a reflection to them, but you can't really make out what is in the doors. I thumbed through this old magazine that we had around the house, and I found this cool picture of these dolphins. I think that if I flip this upside down and with a little bit of trim, I think it's going to look more like a reflection on the doors versus a school of dolphins. I cut 4 strips that are 1/4 inch and then 2 strips that are 1/2 inch. My original thought was that I was going to cover all of this with that white drawing pad paper, but then when I saw the pencil marks, I started thinking, well, maybe I don't need to do this. This particular paper board has like a bit of a shine to it, so I think it will stay clean to a certain extent. I kind of like the effect that this pencil has on this edge because it looks like a very highly frequented Ross. To prevent getting too much glue on the skinny strips, I will put glue on one side, lay the other one on top of it, and then adhere them to the piece. Okay. Just finished gluing down these pieces for the doors. Doors, total pain in the butt for me because there's a lot of measuring and remeasuring, but you know, I'm okay with this. There's a little bit of a gap here on this side. I tried to get these so the doors would be total of 7 inches wide across with 3.5 for each door, but this one ended up a little bit wider because I guess the way I laid down this panel piece totally was off. I decided not to do the plexiglass on this one because there was so much of a shine as is, and I hope that I don't regret that. I also just realized that this color blue on the other side of this dolphin photograph actually is a pretty good match for this Ross blue, so I think I'm going to use this for my pillars. Now that we have these pillars done, finally, we're in the home stretch. Time to cover the bases with this scrapbook paper. Okay, bases are covered. So what I want to do here is to make a piece of trim over here. That way it will even it out because these are not quite even at the bottom. But it's okay because we're going to attach this to the back of a piece of thicker cardboard, and that will be what holds our facade up. I got this box from Aldi's. I think this is going to be a perfect background for our facade. When I cut it apart, it actually looks like a little bit of a house with this peaked roof, but we probably won't even see that. I think I'm going to finish off these rough edges, cut this down a bit, just so this piece of corrugated cardboard doesn't start fraying at the sides. I used more of the doll packaging to make the trim and then glued it to scrapbook paper. At this point, I was getting really tired, so I didn't even bother to cut additional doll packaging. I just folded over the scrapbook paper and used that as the trim. Okay, so I decided to add a bit of a border trim element at the top, but now, oh, it's so dark, but they can stand up on their own. So they should hopefully be able to support this. So let's put this together. And now for the finishing touch. I had to hold the sign down with both hands to make sure it didn't pop off of that contact paper. Final result, drum roll please.